Hello dear student, welcome to my channel. This is Rajwan Singh and today I am going to explain the chapter 3rd of section 1st of class 7 literature portion, poem of the one word. Dear student, poem of the one word. This is the chapter. This is the poem 3rd of section 1st. There are 3 chapters in section 1st. One, every section have 3 chapters. So this is the last chapter of section 1, that is poem. Poem of the one word. Dear student, first of all, I want to tell you about the author, about the writer, about the composer of this poem. So let's start. Dear student, in this poem, we experience American poet Mary Oliver's strong and touching perceptions of nature. So, dear student, Mary Oliver expresses about the nature, about the beauty of nature, and related to white heroine. All the poem is explained on the basis of nature, on the beauty of nature. So, dear student, I want to tell you some facts, some points that is related to Mary Oliver's. So, dear student, Mary Oliver was an American poet whose poems are known for their poignant depiction of nature. So, dear student, she began writing poetry at the age of 14. Her poems are filled with imagery from her daily walks near her home. Her first collection of poems, No Voyage and Other Poems, was published in 1963 when she was 28. So, dear student, during the early 1980s, Oliver taught in university. Her 5th collection of poetry, American Primitive, won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry in 1984. Dear student, she won several awards including the US National Book Award in 1992. She died in January 2019. So, dear student, these are the main facts, these are the very important facts about the poet Mary Oliver. That is the poet of your poem of the one word. So, dear student, I want to tell you some paraphrase related to this poem. Poem of the one word captures a beautiful sight that the poet witnesses one morning. Dear student, she sees a white heron gliding over the water and flying up into the sky. This makes her realize that the bird is a part of this beautiful world just as the man is, just as she is. She imagines, she imagines about this, that the bird is also live here, and the bird is also the part of this nature, like us, like all humans. So dear student, this makes her feel beautiful. These are the things about the poet, and dear student, I am going to explain the poem. Dear student, this morning the beautiful white heron was floating along above the water. In these lines, Mary Oliver expresses that this morning the very beautiful white heron bird, and the bird was floating over the water. And in the further lines, she says, and then into the sky of this, the one world we all belong to. Dear student, Mary Oliver says, the white heron bird who was floating along above the water and then into the sky of this one world. From that world we also belong to. And the further lines says, where everything sooner or later is a part of everything else. Dear student, Mary Oliver says in the further lines that where everything sooner or later is a part of everything else. It means we all the creatures, all the men, all the animals, you can say everything is related to this one world, and we all are same. We all are the part of this beautiful nature. And she says, we all together save this nature to make this world very beautiful. So dear student, in the next lines, which thought made me feel for a little while quite beautiful myself. And she says in these lines that which thought made me feel. She says that a thought, an idea came into my mind which feel me better, which feel me beautiful. That is, For a little while, quite beautiful myself. She says, you can imagine, for a while, you can imagine that the bird and we all men are a part of this beautiful nature, and everything is a part of nature. So, dear student, we have to create an environment to save our nature, to save the birds, and live together very happily. This is the message of Mary Oliver, the poet of this poem, a poem of the one world. So, dear student, overall, this story, Mary Oliver wants to say that we all live together in the one world, and everything is the part of this one world, such as man, bird, animal, everything, and everything is the part of a nature. So this is our duty, this is our motto, to save our nature, to save our birds, and to save everything that is related to our nature. So dear student, this is the poem that Mary Oliver have strongly expressed her views in these lines, in this poem, and she says in this poem their experience, because she was an American poet and she writes in a strong and touching perception of nature. These lines are very heart touching. She wants to convey a message through these lines that everything is a part of nature, and this is the duty of every man, everything that survives in the nature is to save the environment, to save the nature, and to make this world very beautiful. So dear student, these are the explanation of this poem that is given by the Mary Oliver's a strong and touching perception of nature, and this is the very heart touching poem. The lines are less, but her views are very important. Her views are very compulsory to understand the every person, every man, and everything that survive in the nature. So dear student, these lines are very important, and this type of perception of nature is very right, and the views of poet Mary Oliver's, that is very heart touching, that is very nice, and the method of expressing of Mary Oliver's, the method of poets to express in these lines is very impressive. We all are impressed by these lines, by reading these lines, by reading this poem. So dear student, we all have to live together and we all have to save our environment and we all have to save this nature. So dear student, I hope this is clear to all, and this is the end of this poem. So dear student, thank you, have a nice day, and we will meet in the next video with a new chapter. Thank you, have a nice day.